sure some of you might have questions about that. So I want to go ahead and jump right into retirement strategies real quick, and I'll come back to those other slides I just jumped over. So when it comes to an individual retirement account that you can own for yourself and you can set up yourself, the traditional IRA is option one, the Roth IRA is option two. The Roth IRA is definitely a fan favorite. A lot of people love the Roth IRA. It's the only tax-free investment out there. So with the Roth IRA, you get tax-free growth and you get tax-free withdrawals. So that means that everything that you're putting into the Roth IRA is made with after-tax dollars. The money grows tax-free, and then you can withdraw the money in retirement tax-free. So it's pretty awesome. With a Roth IRA, you're limited to $6,000 per year. That's the maximum you can put into it, $6,000 a year. Because it's a tax-free investment account, there are limitations on it. Also, you want to wait until after age 59 and a half or older for withdrawals. Because it's designed as a retirement account, you're getting all that tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals. The IRS limits you and says you have to be over age 59 and a half to make withdrawals. Now, let's just say you found the house of your dreams at a really good price and you wanted to make withdrawals from retirement to purchase that house. It's doable. You can definitely do that. I've had clients do it, but they hit you with 10% early withdrawal tax penalties for pulling from a retirement account early on. And that goes with all retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, everything. There's early withdrawal penalties. So you really want to avoid that. The other strategy is a traditional IRA. So if you're somebody that's high income and you're looking to make contributions to an account to get some tax write-offs and tax deductions every year, because your income's so high, you're trying to get under that next tax bracket and you're trying to find ways to invest and get sizable tax deductions, the traditional IRA is a great strategy for that because you actually get a tax deduction for everything you put into it. The money grows tax-free, but when you get to retirement and you start pulling withdrawals from that account, you do have to pay income tax later on in retirement. So the traditional IRA is good only if you're looking to get some pre-tax contributions and get some tax deductions each year. The traditional IRA is the way to go. The only bad part is eventually you're gonna have to pay taxes on that money once you get to retirement and make withdrawals. So the reasons why some people do traditional IRA versus Roth, going back to the limitations on the tax-free Roth IRA, there's also some income limits. So right now, with today's 2020 tax rules, you can't make more than $120,000 a year. So if you're a single filer and you make over $120,000 a year, you don't qualify for a Roth. We're going to have to do a traditional IRA. If you're a joint filer, you and your spouse are both doing your taxes jointly, then you just have to be under $190,000 a year total income for the Roth. If you're over that combined income, then you have to do the traditional IRA. Either way, both of them are good because going back to that graph that we looked at, we know that we've got to save $381 per month to be on track. We just have to figure out which retirement account is going to be best. Either one's going to get us there, but they're taxed differently. Typically, I try to go with the Roth IRA for most clients, unless their income's too high, and then we'll go with traditional IRA. Also, typically with your employer, you're going to see things like 401ks, 403bs, and things like that. So with the 401k plan or a 403b plan, that's a great way to take advantage of employer-sponsored retirement plans because the money that you're putting in there typically gets matched by the employer. So that's a great way to, let's say that we need to put $381 per month in there. Well, that means that you only have to do about $175 per month, and your employer can match that because that's the total amount that we need. So what you put in gets matched, so you can double your monthly contributions that way and not have to save quite as much. So if you have a 401k or a 403b available, definitely take advantage of that with your employer. You can still do a Roth IRA on the side if you want to. Industry experts recommend saving 15 to 20% of your income for retirement. So going back to this one, where to put your money. So before I go through these 4 buckets for savings, I want to cover this piece right here. This is a really good guide to money management. It's all about budgeting, debt management, and starting your financial plan. So as financial advisors, we really like to focus on the 20-60-20 approach when it comes to budgeting. So let me blow this up a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's the 20-60-20. If you were to take away one thing from this presentation, this piece right here is going to be the number one takeaway. So if you focus on this 20-60-20, you will be successful financially. The first 20% of every dollar, you want to pay yourself first. So as you're earning a paycheck, you want to pay yourself first, and you want to give yourself the first 20% of that paycheck. I'll break that down a little bit more, but basically that's going to go into word savings and invest in yourself, as well as in your future with retirement. The next 60%, that's going to be essential expenses. So that's going to be house, which would be like rent or mortgage, food, loan payments, like student loans, insurance costs, cell phone bills, normal monthly essential expenses like groceries and all that fit into that 60% category. And then what's left over is discretionary. So that's going to be for entertainment, trips on the weekends, date night, going out to eat, dining, things like that. That's what's left over in the budget. That's the last portion, the last 20%. So again, that's the 20-60-20 strategy. And this slideshow is full of great information around budgeting, and it's got some examples and some case studies. And we're going to give you this as well. But the very last page has a monthly budget. And what I really like about this monthly budget is, number one, it's all Excel formatted, so it does all the math for you and adds everything up. But number two, most importantly, it's color coded to see that 20-60-20. So check this out. So on the left side here in blue, we've got the essential expenses, housing, transportation costs, the student loans and credit card debt. We've got health insurance costs, other personal care, groceries, things like that in there. So that left side is that 60%, the essential expenses. So we take a look at that. And then on the bottom right, there's that 20% saving and investing, where you put that money away first. And that's going to be into the emergency funds. Typically, as financial advisors, we like to see our clients with a minimum of 3 months worth set aside for their emergency fund savings. So if there's, let's say we've got a client, their expenses are $3,000 a month with the rent and everything included, then we want to see at least $9,000 in an emergency fund. And if you think about this year with the current pandemic and the layoffs, as well as the folks that were furloughed this year, they were living on their emergency fund. So next up is college savings. So if you have children and you want to set money aside for college, you can do that there. Also, short-term, mid-term investment strategies. That's also an area that you can put money into, and financial advisors can set up stocks, mutual funds, bonds, and other types of investments for you there. And then lastly, retirement savings. So that's where we get into the Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 401ks, and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're doing a good job putting money aside there. So what's left over after you're doing the 20% towards saving and investing, 60% into essential expenses, there's the list of discretionary items. So this is going to be like cable TV, dining out, movies, sporting events, hobby, vacation, travel, all that stuff. That's what's left over in the budget. So once you get through the saving and investing and essential expenses, that tells you how much you have available to spend on those other items. So hopefully this will be helpful. And all the motivational books out there say that it takes about 90 days to create good habits. So I'd like to challenge you to fill this out for the next 90 days. So in this case, the next 3 months, as you pay rent and you pay all of your expenses, take a look at your debit card, your credit card, and other areas that you're spending money on, and write it all in there. Pen to paper, put it in the budget, figure out, are you in line with the 20-60-20 currently? If not, where are you spending too much? Because as financial advisors, we track every dollar, and we look at dollars in two ways. It's either money spent or it's money saved. So if we're tracking money and we know it's either spent or it's saved, using a monthly budget, we can track it. And we're figuring out exactly with that client, is it getting saved somewhere or is it getting spent somewhere? Because there's really no in between. So if you do that for 90 days over the next 3 months, By that third month, you're really going to start to think through where you're spending your money. And you'll start to challenge yourself, because if you find that you're way over 20% in discretionary expenses, then you're going to start to think, I need to spend less on that. Let's not go out to lunch. Let's not go out to eat. Let's try to lower some of those expenses so I can bump up my savings and investment strategy. So this is really a great way to help save. When I've got a client that's trying to buy a house in a year, or they're trying to start a business and they've got some big goals, we start with the 20-60-20 approach, and we start with that monthly budget, and we figure out how we can build that savings to make that purchase. That's really the best way to do it. And I'll circle back with any questions here shortly. But getting back to that 20-60-20, so the first 20% is where you save and invest in yourself. And these 4 buckets right here, this is where we start to look at where that money's going. So I mentioned that we typically like the emergency funds to have a minimum of 3 months of expenses. 6 months is the goal. Most financial advisors that you talk to will say target 6 months in your emergency fund. 3 months is the minimum. The next bucket, once you have that emergency funds, green bucket taken care of, is the blue investment accounts. So that's where we start to look at mutual funds, stocks, and other types of investment strategies to get higher interest growth on your money. And it's still liquid. The next one is long-term. So this is where we start to look at cash value life insurance, other investment strategies like real estate, buying land, buying houses, things like that. That could be a really good 10+ year investment. And then the last one is the golden egg. So that's retirement. So that's where we're starting to look at the Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 401ks, and other types of long-term retirement strategies, knowing that we can't really tap into those until after 59 and a half. So that's why we have all of these other investments earlier than that. So let's just say that your goal was to retire at 55 and you wanted to build a plan to do that. Totally doable. We have plenty of clients who retire at 55, but they can't touch their retirement accounts until 59 and a half. So we're going to use those other investment accounts like the mutual fund, stocks, and other accounts that don't have limitations on age. So that way they can live from age 55 to 59 with no problems. And then they can start tapping into all of those retirement accounts at 59 and a half without penalties. So that's all about long-term retirement planning. But I just wanted to spend some time on that, not only so you can get a good grasp on the budget strategy, the 20-60-20, that's really important, but also thinking long-term, because it's really easy to think short-term and feel like it's hard to get through the student loans and to start a family and to have a wedding and have a house and things like that. But don't lose track of that long distance marathon. You want to make sure that you're pacing yourself every mile to be in track for that finish line.